about how to actually grow a competitive business using Google, specifically how you can use SEO to boost your search results on Google. So we're going to talk about what SEO is. So if you're not familiar with the term, or you're not familiar with the technology and the setup and the service, basically, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the 3 things that I'll recommend that you do to really kind of start your SEO journey. So first, you're going to want to perform an audit, then you're going to want to do some research, and then you're going to look at your content. So those are the things that we're going to cover today. And obviously, the next couple sessions we'll be going into each of these pieces a little bit more in depth in different ways. So if you have questions that we don't get to today, or if you want to know more, don't worry, there's more coming. But this is what we're going to cover today. All right, so I really like this quote that says, Google only loves you when everyone else loves you first. And that's really accurate. So as you'll see as we talk about, SEO, it's the process of optimizing your technical and online content to be easily found by Google and then and other search engines when a user submits some kind of question or search into the search bar. And this is a tool that's used for organic growth. So it's not the same as paid Google ads. It's not sponsored content. This is creating content that will organically boost your ranking on Google search pages. So, how do people get on the first page of Google results for a specific question or specific keyword, as opposed to one of, the thousands, if not millions of other pages after that? And it's through SEO. It's how they optimize their content. It's how they create their content to boost their digital footprint and their website to get further up on Google's list of, the relevant things that people are looking for. And this is really important too, because I'm sure, as you even know, I can't even remember the last time I clicked to the second page of Google. And recent statistics show that it's only like 0.78% of people who click to another page other than the first page to find what they want, right? So people really don't want to have to click to those other pages. And so by using your skills and your content to optimize your site for search engines to perform these SEO tasks, you're going to help yourself get on that first page faster. So it's not a quick thing. It's not a one and done thing. It is an ongoing process that you have to continually work on. But if you can get on that first page of results, you're going to get a lot more traffic than any other page because people aren't even going to see you. So that's what's really important and really key here. So there's a couple things we're going to touch on. All right, so the first thing that you're going to want to do is start with an audit. And so I really love performing audits. I think they're super fun because it's the beginning of a process. You're really just kind of digging through all the different pieces of your business and of your project. And so you can use a tool like Ubersuggest or Google Search Console, or you can use them together. And it really gives you a better understanding of where you sit in Google, basically. So, it'll talk about the health of your site. It'll talk about just like the different things that you can do to improve your website to help Google better crawl your site. And so things that you're going to want to look for when you perform this audit are, what are the issues that are the highest priority that I need to fix? So Ubersuggest does this, which is really nice, is it tells you what kind of impact the issue has on your SEO score, essentially. So if something has a really high impact, like maybe your website is broken, right? That's going to have a big impact on whether or not Google can find you, find your content. Maybe there's a broken link. Maybe, the word count is too little, like all these different things at Ubersuggest is going to tell you what priority you essentially need to put it at. So whether it's going to be high, kind of moderate, or low on the impact that it has on whether or not Google is going to select your content to show for certain keywords and certain queries. So definitely using that. Google Search Console does similar things and tells you kind of what people are using how people are finding your site, all that kind of stuff. So you're going to want to look at what's the highest priority, because some of these, depending upon the health of your site, it could be literally hours, if not days, even weeks of things that you need to update to make your site better, essentially, right? And this is, again, an ongoing process. So you don't have to get it all done right now. You don't have to completely redesign your website. You can start with small things and say, okay, I'm going to go through and make sure that I have all the high priority, really important things fixed. And then I'm going to move on to the more moderate and low priority things. And so that's a really key, important thing to be asking yourself. The second thing that you want to look at is, what content do I need to make these changes, right? So a lot of times, the thing that'll hold people back is they just don't have enough content on their website. And so if you're not, using enough language, if you don't have enough copy, if you don't have enough substance, essentially, for Google to even understand what it is you're offering people, they're not going to promote or show your page, right? Unless it's a very, very specific thing. So like if people search Westfall Digital Strategies, Hannah Westfall, they're going to find me, right? There's no other businesses that I know of, at least, that have those specific things. I'm not going to be the only thing that pops up, but that is a very specific request that person would be asking of Google. And so it wouldn't necessarily matter how much content I have, but if I didn't have any content, or I've had very little content on my website to help Google know that that's what that website is about, it's about Westfall Digital Strategies, it's about Hannah Westfall, then Google's not going to be able to pull that. So that's what you want to be asking yourself is, okay, once I look at these pages, if I know that I need to create more content, what type of content do I need to be creating? Is there copy for your web page that you need to be creating more of? Do you need to consolidate some website pages? All of those different pieces. Start to ask yourself those questions. The third thing that you're going to want to ask yourself is, what technical skills do I need to make these changes? So this is where it can get really tricky. And also where it's hard to, if you're trying to rank for something that's the same as like a really big business that has a lot of money that they can put behind having someone full-time do their SEO and make sure that they're constantly ranking number one. That's definitely something to consider. But, there's plenty of things that you can do technically wise. Gosh, words are hard today, right? Your technical skills with your website that can boost your Google search results. So things like robot text files. And that sounds kind of crazy, but basically it's just a file that tells Google to say, hey, don't bother indexing this page, don't bother looking at this. A lot of times people will use that for membership login pages, or sometimes just like other random pages that don't actually help anyone find their website and would actually be detrimental. Because if I'm a user and I want to check out someone's website and I want to read a blog or something or learn more about them, but I'm not a member, but I go to a member login page, I'm going to bounce out of there real quick, right? And so Google is going to notice that and say, oh, okay, this person clicked on this link and they immediately left, which means that this link is not relevant to what people are searching for. And so we're going to move it down our list. It's going to be a lower priority for us to show that as a result. And that can really, be hurtful for you, because if it's actually the right content and you want to show up for those keywords, you don't want Google to then push that page to the bottom. You'd rather they just not know about it, essentially. And so there's technical pieces like that, things like backlinks, also, redirection pages. So I'm sure you've probably experienced this, where you click on a link and then all of a sudden you get that 404 issue link and page that says, hey, this doesn't exist anymore. There's a lot of ways that you can make sure that if you've changed something, if you've, updated your URL, if you've changed your content and it's no longer going to be correct, you want to make sure that you're changing those things. And so those can be some of those more technical skills that you can learn for sure, but you want to know about them so you can manage that and take some time to really make sure you're doing it right. Because the last thing you want to do is hide something from Google that you actually want them to index. And then the fourth question that I really like to think about is what queries are you wanting to rank for and what are you currently ranking for? So for me, when I audit my site, I get a lot of, Hannah Westfall, Westfall Digital Strategies DC. One of my previous clients, if someone just types in her name, I'll pop up because I have her as a testimonial on my page. So there's all these different things that inform you of like, okay, what am I currently ranking for? And for me, I love that people are finding me on Google at all, but I really want to be thinking through, okay, what do I want them to find me through, right? So most people, what happens, it sounds like and looks like is they're recommended by someone else that they know. They say, hey, you should really check out Hannah. And they'll go and they'll search Hannah Westfall Digital Strategies. And so Google will show them my website. And so that's how they'll find me if they don't already just go directly to the site. But if I want to find new people who, are looking for social media marketing help, maybe overall digital strategy help, web design, SEO support, all of these different pieces, I'm not currently ranking for those. And part of it is that I just haven't sat down and taken my own advice and applied it to my business. But some of it too is just that those are some very, very heavily populated keywords. And so I need to make sure that I sit down and think about my, really specific niche keywords and questions that people are asking that I want to make sure my content is ranking for, and then look at the content that I'm creating and look at what's on my website to make sure that they match. So those are the four, really big things that I like to think through when looking at an audit. Ultimately, you're going to want to just take your audit, look at it, understand it. And then obviously, if you have any questions about it or, you want some professional support, you can always reach out and I'm happy to help there. But these are like the key things to really make sure that you're asking yourself when reviewing your audit. All right, so I talked about two tools here. So we have Ubersuggest and Google Search Console. So I really enjoy Ubersuggest. It is a free tool, except if you have like a certain number of pages on your website. So if you have a really small website, it's great. You can start there and you can still do a lot with it for free. But if you wanted to, pay, I think it's like $20 to have an account and have it monitor and update your site or like update you on your site's health and performance, I found it really helpful. And it's a really simple tool to use. So I highly recommend it. There's a lot of different things that you can do with it. And then the Google Search Console is another really, really important tool that regardless of whatever you do with SEO, you should be connecting this to your website today. It's super simple and it's really helpful, and it shows you exactly what performance you're getting. It shows you what people are searching to find you, all of these different things. It shows you a lot about your website and how Google views it. So those are two really important items that I would check out. And I'll make sure to link them in the follow-up email as well. But here they are. So if you want to jot them down real quick, really simple, really fun. I enjoy them at least. So check those out. All right. The next thing I want to talk about is keyword research. So once you've done your audit, now it's time to do some research. And so keywords are how Google finds the different pieces of information on the web, right? So you want to be thinking about what words people are using to find you, to find your content, to find your services. And so this is everything from, small words like regular, just one word questions or searches, all the way to those long questions of like, how do I do this, right? So you want to be thinking about those things and then start researching what the statistics are on those keywords. So you're going to look at like competition. So how many people are trying to rank for this word? How often are people searching for them? That's the volume. And then, how you want to think about how these fit naturally into your website. So whether it's adding these keywords into web pages that describe your business, describe your services, describe you, or if it's creating content like a blog or a video or a podcast that you can then put on your website and have these keywords in them. And it has to be natural, right? So this is the trick with keywords and with keyword research is you want it to be something that's natural that you would normally use in conversation or in your writing or in your content. And that would also be something that your ideal client is searching for, right? So for example, most of my clients are not looking for digital strategy. Even if that's what they are looking for, they're not going to use that term necessarily to describe it. They're going to, search, how do I market my business on Instagram? Or how do I create an email funnel? Or, how do I build a website? All these different things. That's what my clients are going to be searching for. And that's the kind of stuff that you want to be thinking about for your clients. What is it that they're looking to find a solution to a problem? Like, what problem are they having that you can offer that solution to? And what words are they going to use to describe that? And so if you're not sure about that, this is where it can be really helpful to talk to your clients, to think back to conversations that you've had with them or that you are having with them. What are the big pain points and the questions that they're constantly asking that you have knowledge and understanding that you can answer? So, researching that, thinking critically about what your clients are looking for, and then thinking about how that can inform the type of content you're creating, whether it's the copy on your website or, something that you're creating continually. So those are two big pieces of research, is to consider, what is it that you want on your website, and then what kind of, continual content you want to be creating, and how do your keywords fit in. Now, the thing you don't want to do is stuff your content with keywords. A lot of people used to do that, and Google's gotten smarter, right? And so they're going to know if it's not natural. So it's finding this balance of, how do I use this keyword maybe 2 or 3 times at like most for and that would be like a long page of content. How do I use that in a way that's going to signal to Google, hey, this is what this is about. Take this page and show it to this person when they look for this answer, this question. And then also, how would a reader or someone naturally consume that content? So if I'm reading something and it's very obvious that people are just using words that just aren't necessary, or wouldn't make sense, I'm going to that's something I'll notice, and I probably won't enjoy reading or consuming their content as much, right? So you want to have that balance of, creating content both for this robot, but also ideally for the human. And at the end of the day, Google wants to point people to content that they're going to enjoy. So if you ever have to decide between, doing something that'll help you with Google bots versus the human that's going to be reading or consuming that content, go with whatever's going to help that person enjoy or consume that content well. Because at the end of the day, that's what's going to help you the most. And Google does take note of that. All right, so here's a little bit more on how to do some keyword research. We talked about it a little bit before, but decide what you want to promote, brainstorm those words and questions, and then you can use tools like Google Trends or their keyword planner to find out those answers to that competition. So how many people are searching for this on a regular basis, within a certain time span even, what is the competition. You want something with high volume and low competition, right? And that's the unicorn that you're going to have to find. And so you're not always going to get that, but it's super helpful. And then use these keywords to determine what kind of content you're going to be creating. So speaking of content, now that you've done your audit, now that you have your keywords, you're going to want to create optimized content. And so optimized content is a blog post or a video or a podcast or anything on your website that you, a person, and Google can read, that is designed to help them understand an answer to their question, right? So if people want to know about digital marketing, or they want to know about social media marketing, I want to be asking and answering questions on my website that's going to make sense to those people that are asking that question. So think about, we've talked about your website copy. We've talked about creating content regularly, and then also fit that into your schedule. So for example, I create a blog every week, right? And I create these webinars, and that's a big piece of what drives traffic to my website. And it also helps to build my authority with Google as well. And we'll talk a little bit more about this next week when we dive into content, but creating optimized content and creating it regularly is what is going to help Google to know that it's up to date, to know that it's something worth looking at, to know that it's something worth sharing. And so think about what it is that you need to be creating and then plan it out. And that's the key thing that always gets really tricky is we can make a whole laundry list of things that we want to do, that we want to accomplish, that are going to be helpful. But if we don't put it into our schedules, we're never going to do it, right? So I'm currently in the process of revamping my website, updating it with all of the new things that I offer, which is super fun and exciting, and just kind of letting people know more about where we are with Westfall Digital Strategies, right? And so it's a process, though. It's going to take time. It's not something I can do immediately, and it's not something that I should do immediately, especially because I already have a website. If I start changing content, Google is going to have to recrawl those sites, and every time I change it, it's going to have to crawl it again, right? So I want to make sure the content that I'm putting out there is ideally going to be, the best thing that I can produce at first. That doesn't mean you can't make adjustments, but it's far better to put it out there, let Google do its thing, allow it to properly index and start to promote it, than to have to go in and be constantly tweaking things. It just doesn't help Google to essentially feel confident about that content if it's constantly changing. So that's a really helpful thing to think through as well is, okay, if I'm updating my website or if I'm planning my next, series of blog posts, what is it that I want to be creating based on this research that I've done, based on this audit that I've performed? And so just thinking through all of those different pieces and asking yourself, how can I create a blog? Or maybe how do I want to create videos or podcasts or all of those things? How can I do all of that in a way that's going to be consistent and that's going to help to promote my business and my services in a way that's going to tell Google that I'm legit, basically. And so there's a lot of different pieces there. Again, we'll talk much more about content next week, but that's something to really think through and start to consider is what kind of content do I need to be creating? And then where am I scheduled to have the time to create it? So that's really important. Okay, now it's time for the fun Q&A session portion. We've got a few minutes here, so I'm very excited to have some questions. All right, let's see. If you have a question, make sure to drop it in the chat or the Q&A box. For whatever reason, my Zoom won't let me hear you if you ask a question. So Dahlia, I know you have a question. Can you type it in the chat or the Q&A box for me? It won't allow me to hear you, and that's always tricky. There we go. Awesome. Okay, so you mentioned Google Trends, and what is the name of the other one? Google Keyword Planner. I'll go back to that so you can look at it. And so Google Keyword Planner is actually with Google Ads. So you can create those accounts. You don't have to connect your bank or anything to, or any kind of card to it to use it. But just so you know, the Keyword Planner is within Google Ads. So if you're like, where is this? That's within it. Whereas Google Trends, it's kind of its own thing. But great question. Yeah. So Keyword Planner and Google Trends. All right, any other questions? Give you guys a minute. Anyone in Clubhouse? I haven't actually thought about how we're going to do Clubhouse questions. I'd have to unmute them. All right. Wonderful. Well, if we don't have any more questions, one more. Here we go. Awesome. What do you mean by use keywords to determine your content updates? So great question. So for that, what I mean is, let's think. So like, for example, let's say there is a new feature. So for example, Instagram recently launched this new feature for their Reels. It's called Remix. It basically allows you to duet another reel, and so you can kind of respond to them at the same time that it's playing. And so let's say that was trending, right? So a lot of people were asking about it. People want to know about it. I can look at Google Trends and see, okay, I want to make sure that I write something about Instagram Reels and their new Remix feature. Or let's say, there's something like, obviously with the COVID vaccine, like if you were to look up anything about COVID, that's probably going to be one of the top trending things. So if you were in the healthcare sector or within anything to do with that type of conversation, you probably want to look at those keywords, look at those questions that people are asking, and write some content about it. So like, let's say I was a doctor's office and people are asking, you know, where can I get a COVID vaccine, or is it healthy or safe? I could create a blog post or a video talking about that and then promote that there. So that's a great way to do it. Okay, let's see. See what questions, see what questions or conversations people are having about that specific topic. So yeah, if your business is about racial equality, which is awesome, and I love your business, Dahlia, it's so fun, and now your website is looking fresh too, then you can definitely write some, you know, conversation pieces or questions about it, and answers, and just really talk through it. And even looking at like, what are people searching? Like, you know how sometimes Google will auto populate content when you're searching for it? Then you could even look at that and be like, oh, okay, what's auto populating? Is that popular? Is that what people are asking? Even some of those things can be super helpful. So just kind of getting a feel for what are those questions that people are asking, and always keeping in mind like your ideal audience. So for example, I work with a lot of small businesses who hire me because they don't want to work the tech out, they don't like it, or they don't have time to figure it out, right? And so a lot of what I'm going to be creating is a very beginner level type of content. Whereas for one of my other clients, their focus is more intermediate or advanced level marketing. That's the people that they're looking to connect with. And so when I write content for them, I'm talking about a much higher level, kind of niche kind of topic and content. And so thinking about even those things can be super helpful. Yes. So if you search for something and nothing's popping up, that is a great opportunity for you to say, okay, this is my time to shine. This is what I should be creating content for, so that when people are searching for this, they have something that shows up. So that's a great idea there. Awesome. Wonderful. Okay. Got a couple minutes. So if anyone else has other questions, feel free to chime in. Happy to answer them, but we can wrap up here. So just a couple things for you guys to know for next week. So next week's topic, as I mentioned a couple times, is we're going to be looking at how to create optimized content for your website and the importance of regular content updates. So that could be anything, like I mentioned, from blogs to videos to podcasts, but we're really going to get more into the nitty gritty of like, okay, how do I actually do these things? Especially when I feel like I don't have the time. So we'll talk about that. And then another thing that I would love to have your help with is I want to make these sessions even better by really understanding what it is you want to learn more about or want me to cover. So in that follow-up email, there's going to be a short survey that I would love to just get your feedback on. So please feel free to just take a couple, not even a couple minutes, like a minute to fill it out and share your thoughts with me. And feel free to send me an email in response to that follow-up email if you have anything that you don't feel like you had a space to put it in that survey. But I would love to hear from you, because I want to make these sessions more helpful for you and make sure I'm covering topics that you are really interested in. So please make sure to do that. And then I want to also let you know that this month, so back in, I think, January, which feels like forever ago, we did some website audits for free. So we're going to be shifting into some free SEO mini audits. So if, you know, trying to approach this on your own feels really intimidating or daunting, don't worry. There'll be a link in that follow-up email as well that will perform some mini SEO audits for you. And basically just kind of give you a quick overview of like, okay, here's where your website stands. Here's the things that you might want to focus on fixing, and some recommendations there. So it'll be short, simple, sweet, and hopefully get you on the right foot. But that'll be a link also in the follow-up email. And if you have questions about it or want to know more, please feel free to reach out and let me know. But that is it for this week. Thank you all so much for joining me and for being here. I'm so glad to see you guys here week after week and to see some new names popping in. So again, if you have questions, please feel free to reach out. I would love to talk to you. Have a great week. Bye.